Right guys, I'm just gonna make this video to give my thoughts on the whole Syrian refugee issue. I guess I'll just start by reading over this article, and then I got some story and some thoughts. Okay, well this was probably done about, doesn't say, but it's probably like October, November type time. I guess it's about 3 or 4 months ago by now, but I still think it's pretty relevant. I guess the Canadian government, led by Trudeau, wanted to bring 25,000 Syrian. Oh yeah, it was done in start of November probably. Um, he wanted to bring 25,000 Syrian migrants by Christmas, and that was probably right at the start of November. Um, again, number one is, I guess the first of many hypocritical points by liberals is that um, they always seem to pick out. I know gun owners is a great example, that they wanted them to have to jump through hoops of every second of their life to own guns, but I mean, these Syrian refugees can just walk right in, no questions asked. All along, ISIS and pretty well every terror group says that they're going to try to disguise their people to bring them into places like Canada and USA, Western countries. And I know some of the Paris attackers were Syrian refugees. I know there's some mainstream reports that they weren't, but that's bogus. Um, um, I guess another thing too is, I guess I'm gonna come off by saying that a lot of not the greatest things about him. So um, another and yeah, um, another hypocritical point by the liberals is, um, they don't think you should have to show picture. I guess they don't think you should have to show picture ID to vote. I guess because I guess what I was getting at is, I'm gonna come off as being pretty harsh on them. Um, so a lot of people are gonna say, well, why would the government want to bring them in? Well, one reason is, if you look at immigrants, I believe the polls are roughly 65 to 70% of immigrants are left-leaning in their political views. Um, just one of the big reasons I think the liberals want to bring them in. Another reason why they don't want people to have to show picture ID. In the U.S., it's all the same. It's actually even worse in the U.S. U.S., you pretty much, as long as you have a driver's license, you can vote. Canada, you have to be registered and somewhat Canadian, but yeah, like people who don't think you should have to show ID to vote, or you're either a complete idiot or you're clearly biased. I think it's a little bit of both. I guess the other big reason is a lot of people might not believe me on the whole liberals just want them so they can vote for them, which is true. I mean, U.S. are doing that too. I think that's completely proven. But the other reason is it's cheap labor. It'll drive down wages. And I mean, if in case you haven't heard, most politicians are generally, whatever you want to call it, bought off or funded by billionaires, big corporations and stuff. So they wouldn't have gotten in if it wasn't for them. So those corporations a lot of times call for favors, and could easily be one of them. Another thing is a poll taken of 900 Syrian refugees showed that nearly a third of them support terrorist groups. It was taken, again, it wasn't some random study by some random guy, it was taken by the Arab Center for Research and Public Policy Studies. So, 31% of migrants in refugee camps do not want the Islamic State defeated. I would also probably add that a good number of people who aren't in that 31%, if worse come to worse, they'd probably, I mean, if you gave them join us or join them, they'd probably join them. So, I mean, of the 25,000, Trudeau wants to bring in 7,500 to agree with ISIS. Again, another big good point here is that in that same survey, only 10% of them said that radicalism is a serious problem. And if you look at polls that of Americans, or no, this isn't Americans. If you look at that same poll, they say 41% of 41% say America or Jews are, which is again, your reasoning for supporting them is beyond me. Another good point here is, and I know a lot of people deny this too, but it is true. Only 21% of Syrian refugees are Syrian. A lot of them are economic migrants taking advantage of the situation, or people from surrounding countries. A lot of them might even be living in Syria, but still. Again, this poll is, I like this too. 60% of Canadians don't believe the mainstream media's coverage of the migrant crisis has been effective. I'll probably make a video about it, or videos about it sometime, but if you believe the mainstream media's coverage of pretty much anything, you're an idiot, or you've been massively brainwashed, probably a little bit of both. Yeah, it's this article, but I guess I was going to tell a story too. I guess it was around, or it might even have been on Christmas. I was over at my grandma and grandpa's, and both of them, I think, were actually pro-migrant going into this. But anyways, my grandpa, his dad, I think, is from Sweden, so they still have family that they are in contact with in Sweden. And it was right around, or just before Christmas, I guess, that they were talking and somehow got on the subject of that, and the guy said that the Syrian refugees in there are a real problem, that he told a lot of pretty bad stories about you. He said they basically, a lot of them just form gangs, and I mean they're like regular gangs we already have here, except even a little worse. Like the mistreatment of women and kids is pretty bad, and it's really bad. I seen a story the other day of some policemen in Germany that were quitting because there's such a problem in Germany. Like, Germany basically just let anyone in. I mean, they had the massive issues on New Year's Eve, I guess, New Year's Day. I know there was something like 1,000 women sexually assaulted, some raped, some beaten, and stuff like that. Um, I guess a lot of the stuff too. I mean, I don't. I want to be clear that I don't think like they're all bad or anything. I know there's probably some. I mean, most of the people that probably say that this opinion's racist are probably idiots, anyways. But I mean, think about it. Like, I know a lot of people complain here. I mean, I know it's kind of kosher a lot, and I know how a lot of people laugh and scoff at this idea, but I mean, we do have no shortage of people here we have to help. We have massive deficits. We have, no shortage of stuff we have to pay for. And I guess the other good point it is, too, is that um, studies show that the average refugee brought in costs the system about $12,000 a year. If you do the math on that, times that by 25,000, that's a pretty big number. And we definitely don't just have that money sitting around. Um, and like again, we do like well, I know with oil and stuff being down in Canada, it's definitely harder times nowadays. Like we should be using that money for ourselves. And again, I don't want to sound like, to be honest, like for me, and I know a lot of people, the only really reason for me that we consider bringing them in is just pure guilt by mainly these left wing news and politicians that, I mean, in the end, they're all stupid. They're all corrupt. Pretty well, all of them are bought off. Um, and like I guess that's another big reason for me not supporting them is I don't support really anything that a lot of these politicians and news do. So when they support this, it's probably about a 95% chance that you're not going to want to support it if they support it. So, um, yeah, I mean, the other big thing too is it's getting to the point where there's I know I watch a lot of YouTube videos and see a lot of the good news and stuff of like it's not even hard to even find anymore. Like it's on a daily basis of some refugee raping women, beating women, stuff like that. I know I seen just actually today some man in this was in Syria or Middle East somewhere where he had his wife killed because, or no, this was actually the government. Sorry, that was a different story. Um, the government killed some Syrian ladies because they didn't, or they had pictures on the internet of them not wearing their headdress or whatever they call it. I know another hypocritical point about people who just want to bring in unlimited people is that um, generally most of them complain about how women are treated nowadays, even though they're treated completely equal. They still think they're not treated good enough when they're treated equal, and then you see them supporting these people that think that, I mean, they do say that rape is okay if they're not following Islam or all the rules that go along with it. Not wearing a headdress is one of those. Um, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have videos on it in the future. It's just my thoughts for now, but anyways.